Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm sure it feels different, right? You're just coming back from Colorado, or not Colorado. You're just down in Texas, right, for the Bitcoin conference or whatnot. So,
Yeah, we were down there in Dallas, Texas for I think it's called the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cryptocurrency Super Conference. There's a bunch of really great speakers. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great event. Sean, our CEO, spoke about salt lending as well. We had some great connections, and it was awesome meeting people down there. There's people actually from all over the place. I think it's called the Bitcoin.
nice, definitely. So I know, we're just popping on and people are going to, be flowing in and everything soon. One of the things I want to do as people are coming in, I want to introduce who I have. I've got a special guest today, Caleb Slade. And I know people in the group, people in the forum, you may have heard of Caleb. If you haven't, you may have heard of a blockchain project called, is that the right term? Can I call you guys a blockchain project? Or
I would say so. I would say blockchain company. At some point a project becomes a company.
No, you have now hit the big leagues. But
it goes project, startup, company.
Definitely. So we have actually Caleb, who is the co-founder and current community director for a blockchain company called Salt. Now, for people who don't know Salt, Salt is listed in CoinMarketCap. I know there's been a lot of discussion on Salt because Salt has done some pretty interesting things. But to kind of give the quick overview, I'm going to kind of talk about Salt from a high level and then let Caleb actually, you know what? Why don't I not talk about Salt? Why don't I let you, Caleb, because, straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah,
why don't you tell our community, let's talk about Salt. Why don't you give, the background, your background and everything so people can kind of get to know you?
Yeah, well, let's see. I'll start with my background. I studied a lot of philosophy in college. That's where I got my degree. After school, my philosophical interest kind of started focusing way more on economic theory and the connection between the two. And that really led me to an interest in Austrian economics, which then led me to this interest in cryptocurrencies. When I first started getting interested in cryptocurrencies, really it was just Bitcoin that was around. And then it was awesome to kind of watch this explosion of the space and the different assets and developments and innovations that happened in the space. Along the way, I met the men that ended up being my co-founders. Kind of developed a little bit of a team and started investigating a bunch of different ideas. And then kind of settled in 2016 on this concept of Salt. Excuse me. So what Salt is it's a platform for blockchain-backed loans. And what that means is if you have crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other blockchain assets, you can use them as collateral for a cash loan. As opposed to going to any bank or any other lending platform and just getting a loan backed by your credit or your income, your future income. These loans are backed by the assets you already hold. Now, a lot of people might ask the question, like, why would you want to go into debt? If you already have this cryptocurrency and you need cash, why wouldn't you just sell it? Well, the reason you would borrow against is the same reason that wealthy people have historically and traditionally always used debt to build more wealth. And that's because when you borrow against an asset, it's not a liquidation of that asset. Typically, most tax implications are based off the liquidation of an asset. So when you borrow against it, you're not triggering capital gains typically. And not only that, but you get to experience the future appreciation of that asset. So it's very similar, like if you owned your house outright, or if you owned a stock portfolio and you needed cash, you wouldn't go sell those assets. You would borrow against them through a home equity loan or a securities-backed lending model. So if you have, let's say $100,000 or let's say $10,000 worth of Bitcoin and you need some cash, but you think Bitcoin is going to be worth a lot more next year and you don't want to sell it, with Salt, you can bring it to the platform, put it up as collateral, get about $6,000 deposited right into your bank account. You can do whatever you want with that. And once you repay that, over the course of up to 3 years, you get your assets back and whatever their value is at that moment. So if Bitcoin has appreciated a bunch in that interim, then you have something that's now worth a lot more, and you've postponed or optimized those tax implications.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So I guess, the first question I got to ask, I mean, this is a very complex financial instrument that you've created, which, is, if anything, I would say is definitely groundbreaking. How do you get into this thing? I mean, are you like a finance guy or, I mean, who
No,
wakes up? I mean, I think the idea is awesome, but it's like, I don't wake up in the morning and think, hey, I need to figure out some way to collateralize, cryptocurrencies for the common public, right?
no, absolutely. And I think my background certainly isn't finance. My background is in philosophy and culture and messaging and branding and marketing, more on that non-finance side. But one of the smartest things I've ever done in business was learn that if you really want to be successful, you got to figure out what you're not good at, and you got to find people who are good at what you're not good at. So, on my team, that's what we've built up, is this really great team of co-founders, and then those 4 co-founders have grown into a team of about 55 employees now, including our contractors and everything. And on our founders team, we have tons of really high-level, publicly traded enterprise management with Sean, and we have finance backgrounds and legal backgrounds and lending backgrounds as well. So really, it's I didn't wake up in the morning one day and think, you know what, I want to get into the lending business. But I did wake up one day and say, I'm passionate about this blockchain technology. I'm passionate about Bitcoin at the time. And I want to be involved in being a part of its future and its implications and its impact on the world. And that's kind of how it started. I did wake up saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this new thing that I think is going to be the future.
Wow. So everyone who's just tuning in, we're definitely getting people on. I've been told by Dr. Boyce in terms of, playing with the Facebook algorithm. If you guys can, if you want to like the post or give us some hearts or things like that, that helps us, I guess, get more reach. So everyone who's on, if you're interested in this, if not, you don't have to like it, but if you give us some likes or some hearts, we definitely appreciate it. We'd love to, spread the word and get everyone on here, because we literally have, this is straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, this is, the guy or one of the top guys, at Salt. And a lot of people I know have shown interest in Salt. I've taken a position personally in Salt. I know many others have. And, you can't get better than talking to the source. So before we get into Salt, I just kind of want to get to know you a little better, Caleb.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. You've mentioned, you got into crypto, but you're more of a philosophy guy. So you definitely have I guess what I would consider a more non-traditional background. Let's just, just tell me, I guess everyone, the joke always is everyone always gets screwed on their first crypto investment, right? Whether it was getting into BitConnect or whatever, in my case, I actually got into crypto because I had a colleague by the name of Homero Josh Garza, because I came from the telecom world. And my first, get bent over on crypto was getting involved in this effort called Paycoin and Gaw miners. And they've made recent news, or it's not even recent anymore, but about 6 months ago, Josh finally pled guilty to, $9 million worth of wire fraud. So, talk about
whatever, $9 million. It's not a big deal.
I guess in this case, in this space, right? Yeah, what's $9 million, right? Yeah. Amongst friends. Ugh. But why don't you tell me about yourself? I mean, are you one of those really smart guys that just knew when to buy at the right time?
I have been screwed in crypto, but I don't really get to be mad about it because I'm the one who screwed myself. One of my first Bitcoin purchases, I kind of distributed it among a couple different wallets to kind of figure it out. And one of those wallets, I totally forgot both the password and then forgot where I wrote that password down and couldn't find my, my documentation on that. And so at the time it was $300 or $400 worth of Bitcoin, not a big deal. But now, oh God, it's a couple $1,000s that I pretty much scammed myself out of through my own ineptitude. And it's but I think it's a good lesson to learn. I think everybody at some point in this space learns that lesson. They lose some funds either through malicious actors who are taking advantage of them or through their own self malice, I guess, as it were, or their own lack of care. And I think it's an important lesson to learn because really it highlights what I think is so special about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is this you have this immense responsibility to be in control of your own finances, to be safe with them, to be secure, to back them up, and to be careful. And with that cost comes the benefit of this financial sovereignty, of really truly being the only person in control of the money that you own. And I think that it's, like, it happens really frequently that somebody has money in a bank account and thinks that's their money. What can happen is they realize that money is actually just money they have permission to access. And there's all kinds of things that can remove that permission, either through clerical errors or through making a deposit that's too large or something that looks suspicious to somebody, and they'll freeze your account for something. What's amazing about blockchain is there is no mechanism for somebody to freeze your account other than yourself, right? And so I think it's it's important for people to learn that lesson early. I think it's, if you are just getting into crypto, which it doesn't seem like your audience really is, I'm sure a lot of people have learned this lesson. It's important to start with baby steps, make that mistake when it doesn't cost you thousands of dollars, make it when it costs you, a couple hundred, maybe at the most.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a buyer beware market. We've actually had a member of our community. His name is Lamar Wilson, and he's got a separate project that he's working on outside of ours. Ours is not, we tend to build up the community. So it's not like you've got to do our thing or, you're out. We want to help everyone. But get this. He was involved in a Stellar Lumens airdrop, which has been wonderful. I think, I don't know what the number is, but I heard he gave out like 50 or 60 grand worth of lumens, to a bunch of people, which, everyone was excited. But what's happened now is like there's a group of malicious hackers, or I don't know what the right term is because, I'm not intimately involved. But we've gotten reports that, people are targeting him now because he gave out lumens. And they're kind of like stealing the identities of his group and like reposting these people. But they repost the identities with like a bunch of FUD. And with the FUD is like info on like some fake wallet to get you to go like register your keys and to kind of steal your stuff from you. I mean, it's, I guess, depending on how you look at it, there's that inside joke, right? When FUD comes, that means you've actually made it.
Yeah, definitely. I think if nobody's flooding you, you're not doing something, and I think like that's one of the beautiful things about this community is it's this diversity in this unfettered, uncontrolled community where everybody can kind of do what they think they want to do and what they think is best. Now, unfortunately, that results in a lot of people who are malicious actors, who are hackers, and they're getting more and more coordinated. I think if I weren't in a position where it was important for me to be a public, relatively public figure. I'm not like, by any means famous in the crypto space, but it's kind of unavoidable that people know who I am in relation to Salt. If I wasn't in that sort of position and I was into crypto, I wouldn't tell anybody that I own crypto. I think it's unless it's like through an anonymous channel. Because I think, personally, like I've had to really, really shore up my personal security because I get targeted pretty frequently. It's something I'm familiar with now. It doesn't even like irritate me because I'm like really secure. But it's like something that you have to be aware of if you are, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Charles, like if you are at all a public face in the crypto space, like there's people who want your money and there's people who don't want to work for it. They don't want to do it through a voluntary transaction. They want to just take it. So it's, it is buyer beware. It's, be vigilant and be researched too. I think that a lot of people get into this space thinking it's a get rich quick scheme. And while there's a lot of people who have gotten rich quick, there's a lot of people who've gotten poor even quicker because, they don't know some of the basics. And I think there's a lot of basics out there for personal security. Don't Google search a link that you're going to go to and then click the top ad. Because a lot of times those are phishing attacks. They look like, let's say, my Ether wallet, but it'll be, like just barely misspelled, or, it'll be letters that look like my Ether wallet, and all they're doing is just gathering your private and public keys, and then they just take everything out of your wallet. So it's really important to kind of do a little bit of research before you start really playing with crypto, so you have that foundation. It's not as hard as people want to think it is, or people a lot of people who have had a lot of funds stolen from them think it's like impossible, or, it's like there's no way to avoid getting things stolen from you. But really, with just a little bit of attention, a little bit of research, I think everybody can be really confident in the safety. And I also highly, highly recommend to get a hardware wallet. It's a small investment that could potentially save you hundreds of thousands, and if not millions of dollars in the long run. Like I think it would be worth $1,000 to get a good hardware wallet. But really they're like about $100. I really, really, really highly recommend that people start integrating hardware wallets in their everyday life in dealing with cryptos.
No, definitely. So for anyone who's just tuning in, first thing, if you kind of, I have a special guest with me. I have Caleb Slade. He is one of the co-founders, and he is currently the community director of Salt Lending. Salt is a blockchain company that's very innovative and very unique that's been out there. So, we'll be diving into that soon. Right now, we're just kind of getting to know Caleb and learning more about his background. And while we're here, I have to do that shameless ask. This is a strategy that Dr. Boyce has taught me, and it's wonderful. So if you're listening in, give us the like button, give us some love buttons. Caleb is an incredibly smart person. We want him to share his knowledge, and we want other people to be able to see, what, hear and listen, what knowledge Caleb has. So that's actually really good. I'd like to, I'll tell you about some other projects we have. But one of the big things, we've noticed, and I'd love to get your opinion, is crypto now is moving from being a fringe thing, right? Everyone thought of crypto as a bunch of scammers, and I'd like to kind of get your opinion on that, into something that's, more mainstream. So let me ask you this, though. What is your opinion, right? Everyone has probably read the story of, the Silk Road or the Dread Pirate Roberts. Where are we today? Is crypto still an underground thing? Tell me your experience, right? Because you're now trying to make crypto legitimate by creating, saying, hey, this is an asset that you can actually borrow normal money against.
Yeah, I think where we're at in crypto is every single day, more and more people are realizing that this is a legitimate financial technology and a legitimate tool for not just personal financial wealth, but a tool for interconnectedness, both economic and informational, and from community to community, from individual to individual. I think that, really one of the earliest use cases was for, the Silk Road and Dread Pirate Roberts, or whatever his name was, where people realized, well, if criminals can use it to transact without anybody controlling them, then a non-criminal can still benefit from that for the same reasons. Right now, I don't recommend anybody use any of these dark websites or anything like that, because there's a lot of scams on those too. But I think that it's very intellectually honest to say that if something can be censorship resistant enough to work in an environment like the dark web and these Silk Road site platforms, then it can be censorship resistant for law-abiding citizens or people in economies where the government that is creating these laws is unjust, right? And I think that still today, it's really important to realize that 99% probably, and maybe a little bit less now, but a vast, vast majority of all crime is transacted with cash or jewelry or precious metals or art even. And just because a criminal on the street uses, cash to sell drugs doesn't mean that there's a deficiency in cash. And I think that where we're at now is the realization and almost the buy-in, of traditional finance world, of realizing actually this is a legitimate tool that isn't going to go anywhere. And I think the resistance that you see to blockchain, or the old mentality, is almost identical to what we saw with the internet and the World Wide Web. And I think I was reading the other day that the first, I won't know if it was the first transaction or the first message that ever happened on any sort of connected network, like the precursor to the internet, was between MIT and Harvard, I think, the two departments there. And they pretty much bought weed from each other. And it's this was like this, they're realized oh my gosh, we could just talk to each other and do this. And now you can look at that if you were early in the days and be like, oh, this is just a tool for people breaking the law. But if you have a higher view, you realize that if somebody can do that communication, then it opens up the world to this amazing, robust, diverse world of communication where anybody in the world can send, receive, and store and access information from anybody else in the world. And that's a really powerful tool. In the World Wide Web, this internet of information has connected us to everyone else in the world in a really beautiful and mysterious way, in ways we don't even understand the full implications of. Blockchain is doing the exact same thing with value, right? It is the internet of value, where the World Wide Web is the internet of information. So it is allowing us to store, send, and receive units of value with anyone in the world that has an internet connection. And I think, like, on a global economic scale, that can only be positive in the long run. That's where I think we're at in blockchain, because I think that kind of, to use a similar analogy, it's almost like the old world of finance is postal mail. You know, put a stamp on a piece of paper envelope and put it in a box, and somebody picks it up and takes it somewhere central, and then it gets distributed to whoever you sent it to. And then all of a sudden email came along and electronic communications, and, you know, the late 80s, maybe 90s. Email didn't need postal mail to stop, right? In order to do communication better, faster, more securely, and cheaper. All it did was outcompete it. And now it's like I don't remember the last time I mailed a letter, to be honest. Like, I don't even know where you buy a stamp. Like, I'm sure you can get them at the postal office, but it's like most people do all their communication electronically now. And I think we are kind of in those mid-90s phase of blockchain where it's starting to outcompete traditional finance because of its disintermediation, because of its decentralization, because of its inclusion. I think everyone is realizing that this is not something you can ignore and mock, that it's going to be here.
Wow, no, that's great. So let's get into Salt a little bit. And, you know, Caleb, why don't you tell us your vision for Salt, what you want to learn, you know, what it's about, you know, what Salt's trying to accomplish. And, you know, for people who are tuning in, we've got a bunch of people on right now. If you actually have questions for Caleb or Salt, comment on the Facebook Live. And hopefully, if we have time, we'll get to your questions. Because, you know, I think with Salt, it's a unique differentiator because, specifically from my perspective, there's the concept of the crypto lending platform, right? Yeah. And the crypto lending platform, you know, I see your just reaction, and, you know, it's kind of the same way. A lot of those lending platforms have a pretty bad name because they're, totally. I don't want to say they're a Ponzi scheme, but, you know, they have some dubious, it doesn't quite add up. Might be the better way of saying it, right? But you guys are a lending platform, but you're different. And why don't you talk about it, you know, or why don't you give your...
I mean, I think we're in this environment where people, like, especially it's fresh in the memory, like platforms like BitConnect or something like that call themselves, you know, a lending platform. The reality is that it was just a straight Ponzi scheme, right? They weren't actually issuing any loans. They were taking people's money and saying, oh, we're funding these loans, and then you're getting interest off of that. But the reality is that it was just, they were funding people's payouts off of new money coming in. And it was pretty well known that was a Ponzi scheme right away. And people sussed that out because the owners and managers of BitConnect were anonymous. Nobody knew where they were really based. They didn't have any offices. They didn't have any regulatory framework. They just kind of set up and had a really well-designed referral program. And a lot of people on YouTube and social media channels were benefiting by spreading the word of it. And so they kind of had this life of its own. Whereas opposed, if you look at Salt, like, we are actually issuing loans. We're issuing cash loans. Borrowers who have gotten loans have been public about getting loans. We're based in the U.S. All of the managers and owners are publicly listed. We are, I mean, honestly, if we were going to do a scam, we've gone about it really poorly because we are just, you know, like, we are setting ourselves up to go to jail if that's the case, but we're not, you know. And I think it's unfortunate that we're in an environment where we have to address that need, because this is a really, it's an open ecosphere where, you know, malicious actors can take advantage of people, but we're okay to stand up to that scrutiny. And we know that, like, you know, it doesn't upset us to say, all right, we need to show that we're, you know, you can look up our articles of incorporation in the state of Delaware. You can look up who the owners are. You can look up, our hedge fund on the lending side is an RIA registered with the SEC. Like we're going about it right. Like we're going about it in a compliant manner. We're very restrained about the promises we make. We haven't, come out here and promise the moon to everybody just to get a quick dollar. We're trying to be very, very careful and meticulous about the way we roll out and message ourselves and the way that we scale. We're not just trying to do a land grab or a money grab. We're trying to build a long-term company. We want to be here 50 years from now, innovating in the new generation of financial technology. So yeah, I think there's a couple ways you can differentiate us. But yeah, there is a unfortunate connotation with some of the word lending. I think also though there's an opportunity for us because not only has there been some not only has there been some scams calling themselves lending platforms, but overall, like our generation has this idea that debt is a 4-letter word, that debt is bad. And debt is almost like a lender and debtor, or lender and borrower relationship is like a master-slave relationship. And I think a large part of that is because the type of debt that our generation has had access to is bad debt, is these predatory lending models, usury debt, debt against your future income, like student loans that you can't declare bankruptcy from, payday loans that end up being, 1,000% interest at the end of it because they're doing 1% a day, and that compounds. And really debt that you can almost never get out of, debt that is significantly more beneficial to the lender than it is to the borrower. But really a part of SALT's mission and our challenge and what we see as an opportunity is to recontextualize debt, to say that there are forms of debt that are more beneficial to the borrower than to the lender. There are forms of debt that you can use to build your wealth as opposed to get into a hole that you'll never dig yourself out of. And we think that the best form of debt out there is asset-based debt, where you're not borrowing against your future income, but you're borrowing against your existing assets. Now, the problem with that lending model is it's traditionally been very costly. It has a high barrier to entry, and there's only certain types of assets that you've been able to borrow against, like a real estate or a car that you own outright, or other very valuable assets that have like liquidity. But so that it's kept this like barrier to threshold where most people in my generation, in the millennial generation, and even just lower socioeconomic levels don't have access to this healthy wealth building debt. But what we want to do with SALT is say by using technology, by using blockchain technology to automate this process of asset-based lending, to manage that collateral with an automated technology, to enforce the terms of the loan to protect both the borrower and the lender from malicious actors on either side, that we can bring that threshold, that barrier to entry way lower. So you could borrow against $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and it be cost efficient and productive and profitable for the lender. But you could also borrow against $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and it could still be profitable for the lender. And eventually what we really see, like you asked what SALT's vision is for the world, where we are in 5 years, we want to continually and passionately make our technology more and more cost efficient, more automated, less labor intensive, so that it would be cost efficient to borrow against $50 worth of Bitcoin or some other crypto. And this is really, really important when you look at financial inclusion and access on a global scale. If you are, let's say, a farmer in India, you could scrimp and save for years to accrue $50 worth of Bitcoin. You might be the wealthiest person in your small micro economy, but your only option with that asset currently is to sell it, right? And that's not the smart thing to do with an asset that's appreciating. So what we want to say is if we can make this technology more and more efficient, more and more automated, more and more inclusive and accessible, that we can give this wealth building tool to everyone in the world, right? And I believe that we could see a world through blockchain technology broadly and through tools like SALT, where every single person in the world can be wealthy at the same time if they want to be. And there's this pushback, I think, in people's perception that wealth is only accrued when somebody loses, that somebody can only make wealth if they take it from somebody else. And that's just a misconception about economic growth. And like if, economic wealth and growth is not a zero-sum game. Most economic wealth occurs and growth occurs because two parties come to a voluntarily agreed upon mutually beneficial transaction. right? Where both benefit from that transaction as opposed to one person taking from the other. And I think that there's also perception that people are poor because they make bad decisions. I think that's false. I think people largely are poor because they don't have access to the right tools to build their wealth. So really, I think that's the mission of blockchain broadly. And in particular, what SALT is passionate about is bringing these wealth building tools and financial services and products to everyone in the world that wants to build their wealth. I think that's a world I want to imagine. It's a world I want to work really hard to bring about. And it's something that I can believe in, and I think the world would be a much better place if everyone that wanted to be could be wealthy,
Wow, no, that's great. So, wow, that's awesome. For everyone who's tuning in, just to kind of give an update, if you haven't heard, I have Caleb Slade on with me. He is the co-founder and community director of SALT Lending. Caleb has been talking about the vision for SALT. SALT is a blockchain-based lending platform, which is seeking to empower people, maybe traditionally the underbanked or people without access to capital, with a highly efficient loan platform for the access of, quote unquote, good debt versus what might be termed, predatory debt. Before we go into things further, again, for anyone who's watching, if you like what you hear, if you want to hear more from Caleb and stuff like that, please click that like button. Please give us those hearts. It helps us, with the Facebook algorithm. It helps us get more reach, all those sorts of wonderful things. Share the video. We want everyone to hear, or only share it if you think what Caleb says makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, wow, Caleb, that was great.
I do want to say on that point, this idea of bringing this financial product to be inclusive and accessibility to underserved or unbanked. Right now, SALT is not able to make it profitable to lend against $50 worth of Bitcoin. So to bridge that gap between the now and where we want to be, we actually funded $2 million into a nonprofit called the SALT Foundation. And its whole purpose is in that interim, while SALT is working on a revenue positive, successful, profitable business and bringing that technology more and more scalable down to the lower economic levels, its mission is to drive financial inclusion. Its mission is to drive financial literacy as well. So if you're interested in the social impact of what the space is, please check out the SALT Foundation. Check out what we're doing with that. We're starting locally here in Denver, Colorado, and in the U.S., but we have a global aim for this. We really want to pave the way so that people understand the educational piece, the literacy piece, but also to bring those financial products to those people who need it most before we've gotten this technology to be profitable for that. I think what we're going to see with technology like SALT's platform is it's going to do the same thing in economies like Africa that the telecommunications industry had, where they had very, very little to no telecommunications, and their communication channels were very limited. It was really manual and analog. And you'd think that they would have to do the infrastructure building to put landlines in, but they just hop skipped all that and went straight to cell phones. And now almost everybody has cell phones. But it wasn't cost efficient to do that when cell phones first came out because they were, very expensive to build and the technology and infrastructure wasn't there. That's what SALT is going towards. We want, just like a cell phone is in everyone's hand in Africa, we want access to healthy credit to be in everybody's hands no matter where they are. So definitely check out SALT Foundation if you're interested in that dimension of it.
We should definitely talk because, the reality is with our community here, there is a strong African-American and also African community. And specifically, one of the goals of what we're doing is, our target is the currency exchange, right? Mm-hmm. In some of these underbanked communities, you have the currency exchange that basically, you'd mentioned payday loans and a lot of these predatory lending procedures. They're sharks. And we're not going to go burn them down because that's just, we don't want to do that. But our goal is to provide solutions to solve those problems.
Absolutely.
In addition, one of our partners who in our project actually is a very large African banking conglomerate. They have over 300 branches scattered throughout Africa, and then other branches in various diaspora regions. So I think maybe there's an offline conversation on this.
Definitely.
We also actually have deployed another project on our end. It's essentially, I mean, depending on how you look at it, it's kind of, the term might be a shitcoin, except that the purpose of it is, we have actually created this thing called the love token. And the purpose of the love token is not to really have it appreciate, but, we insta-mine the coin, we just give it away to people, but we also include education with it. So, we want to give people ERC20 compliant token that includes, how do you set up my Ether wallet, or how do you set up your ledger, and just get people used to sending it back and forth so that, if you're not doing it with actual money, but with not fake coins, but insta-mine coins that we can just keep, pressing a button and printing, you're not afraid, right? So you can, lose your key and lose 1,000 of these tokens, or send 50 of them to the wrong address and be okay. So no, I'm very interested in what you're doing with the Salt Foundation, and I know our community would be too.
I think it would be, it's totally, you should not call it a shitcoin. I think there's nothing shitty about love, and there's nothing shitty about the project and the intent there. I think it's an altcoin, and I think it's just like the World Wide Web has made it so that what used to cost $50,000 to put up a website, now anyone can go to WordPress and throw up a website for their passion project without it being profitable, without it being based on, investment and moons and Lambos, And I think that what you could do, and I know we're kind of publicly spitballing about this, but you could get buy-in from organizations that are selling products that believe in the passion and believe in the mission of the love token. I know Salt, I could totally see Salt, selling merchandise for the love token. We might not be making money on love token, but it would be a great way for Salt to reward people for the behavior and to incentivize the type of behavior that we believe is good for the community and for the world at large. And I know that Salt wouldn't be the only ones that are on that, in that game, or in that sphere of belief about this space.
Well, that's great. If let's talk offline. I'll airdrop.
Yeah, we'll talk offline. We'll see if we can do a joint T-shirt that's sold with love tokens only.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, we're happy funding it too. So I mean, we're able to do that. Let's actually get into. I know a lot of people who've been listening in. Salt is interesting, and yes, for people with only $50 worth of Bitcoin, it might not make sense. But I think Salt does make sense, and I'd like to get into, if you're capable of, let's get into token mechanics. Yeah. How does the Salt economy work? How does this, how do I actually take advantage of this? And I understand hypothetically there's still an ROI thing, so it's not available for everyone. But let me just quote, when Salt came out, I'm just kind of curious. I have a bunch of Salt tokens. I'm just kind of curious what I got. I looks like, let me just check. I've got about 3,000 Salt tokens. Awesome. So they're just kind of sitting there. What do I do with them? I mean, I understand, today I'm buying it. Well, the main reason for when I had bought the Salt tokens, I looked at it as a little bit of an appreciation play, because obviously we're all capitalists. Unfortunately for me, I didn't buy into Salt till probably December. So, I had some appreciation, but obviously with the current correction, I'm a bit underwater myself. But that's fine. It's no big deal, because this is a long-term thing. But more importantly, I'm interested in Salt because I anticipate there will be a time where I would actually like to use my Salt tokens outside of appreciation. So, can you maybe explain, someone like me or someone else out there who might have, 50 or 1,000 or 10,000 Salt tokens, what's the purpose of these things? What do I use them for? How do I use them? How does your platform work? Why don't you get into the nuts and bolts?
Absolutely. So the Salt token is something that can be purchased either from our platform at a retail price or from the secondary market. There's a whole bunch of exchanges that are selling Salt, or where they issue trades in Salt. And if you want to use the platform, then what you need is a Salt token, at very least, at least one, right? So you have to redeem it on the platform for access to the lending platform. It's kind of like a gate fee, right? It's one of Salt's main revenue models or revenue streams. But it's also, we consider them a token that is equivalent with membership, right? So the more that you hold, or the more that you have, the more it impacts your membership experience as a member. So we're going to be rolling out this dimension, or this paradigm called proof of access, where by holding Salt on our platform or in a synchronized wallet, we're doing a partnership with some really cool wallets out there. to where you could do this, where you essentially, let's say you want a loan, you could just come in and redeem one SALT, and then that would have, the loan that you would get, it would have certain terms, interest rates, loan to value ratios, et cetera, repayment terms. But by holding more SALT on the platform, like let's say you have 3,000 SALT, by keeping those on the platform or synchronized wallet, everything about your experience improves, right? Like your interest rate gets lowered, your loan to value ratio gets more optimized, the terms are more flexible. So additionally to access and the dimensions of your membership and the loans that you get and the services that you get, currently we are allowing all of our members to repay all of their monthly payment, both principal and interest, every month with SALT at a retail value. So currently, yeah, for real. And now we are, we have to,
my loan today? Wow.
we have to deeply disclaim this, because this is something our goal has always been to do this. It's something we didn't announce until December 28th when we launched, but it's something that we hope that we can keep going indefinitely. It's possible that we'll have to scale that back a little bit, depending on some factors that are frankly outside of our control. But for the time being, that is what we've allowed every single borrower of those $23 million that we've had out. They've all been able to repay all of their monthly payments in SALT.
Okay, hold on. I just need to stop here because, I mean, this is amazing if I hear this. And I just want to clarify this. And, I know everything like this. So the reality of the matter is, SALT tokens, if I understand, on your retail platform, you have a retail value. It's like what, $20 or $25 or something?
$27.50.
Okay, so it's $27.50 a token.
Yep.
So if I understand this correctly, I mean, the market today, SALT is trading for about $5. So
yeah, it's something around there. I think so just to be clear, I can't really and shouldn't really ever comment on the secondary price.
Okay,
I can say that there is a secondary market for it. You can buy them on the secondary market.
Okay, so there's
but it's a utility token. It's not an investment, and I don't want anybody to hear what I'm saying and think that I'm giving you investment advice or speculation or anything like that. All I can say is that there is a secondary market for it, and SALT has a retail price, which is both what we sell for from our platform, but what we redeem for. Those are the same value.
So what you're saying is, let's say I have some tokens laying around.
Yeah.
Don't know where I got them from. Just have some tokens.
Doesn't matter where you got them from. They're fungible.
So I now go and I ask you for a loan for, say, $100,000, against my Bitcoin. You're saying right now I can pay both principal and interest with SALT tokens.
Yeah, your monthly payments of principal and interest. So you can't go in and instantly pay off all of your loan with SALT. Now, we don't have early prepayment penalties. You can repay your loans, your SALT loan at any time without penalty. We don't say, oh, well, you would have given us 3 years of interest, so we're going to charge you for 3 years of interest. But you just can't repay all of your loan right away with SALT tokens. But right now, what we're doing is, and really we started doing this, we've always had this goal to do this, that SALT token would be both membership access and like a platform currency, really. A credit, like an Amazon gift card or something like that, something analogous to that, where you could use an Amazon gift card both for your Prime membership and to buy things, like it works the same way. So right now, what we're letting people do, and we're going to keep this going, like I said, I have to disclaim it, because we don't know some things in the future. There's some unknowns, some factors that are outside of our control, but what it looks like is we're going to keep trying to do this as long as possible, is you can make all of your monthly payments, both principal and interest, in SALT, valued at the retail price.
Jeez. So I'm going to send you flowers and gifts because I need to get approved. I need to get to the front of the line so I can get approved for a loan on your platform.
You need to get to the front of like $1.3 billion in loan requests. No, it's like, to be honest, we know that there's a lot of people in the community that are really wanting a loan right now. And we are really trying very hard to scale our platform as quickly and as responsibly as possible. I think the worst thing that we could do is to rush, either not adequately test our technology, not adequately automate it, not make it as good as it could be, and then make a mistake. If we were to lose someone's money or a lender's funds, it could be the end of us as a business, and then everybody's membership and Sol token wouldn't be worth anything, right? So really, it's like we know that there's this insatiable demand right now in our community, and it is the only thing we care about is meeting that demand. But we care about doing that in a way that's responsible, in a way that is long view, right? And rushing through to get as many loans on the book as possible just wouldn't be the right way to do that. Now we know that that's requiring a lot of patience from our community, and we really appreciate all the support we've had from the 60,000 people that have signed up and are waiting for their loan. But we promise we are working as fast as we can, as hard as we can to do this well and to do it right. And the more effort we put into it now, the quicker we're actually going to be able to address all of the demand that we have. Yeah.
Well, I've already gotten 4 Facebook Messenger requests, and I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. If you need a guinea pig to do a $50,000 or $100,000 loan,
okay, you're in.
Call here.
Well, would you tell everybody about your loan?
Happy to share everything on that as long as I can do it with tokens.
We should definitely talk about that off loan. Currently, we're lending in about 8 states, both commercial and both business and personal loans. And then there's about 10 other states that we're lending commercial loans only. But we have licenses in process for every state. We think
I'm happy to move to whatever state you need.
You will move and set up a business in any state we ask you to. That's what's funny is that's not the first time I've heard that. People are like, all right, I will set up an LLC. Wherever you tell me I could set up an LLC. Now, Charles, we could talk offline about that. We'd be obvious if we could push that along. But really, it's like, we understand there's a frustration when you don't have what you want right away. There's some patience required, but we really are grateful to the, really, really amazing support we've had from our community and the understanding that we are trying to do this well. And we want to be here 20 years from now, 50 years from now. And if we are rushed about it, if we're unwise, if we're unprudent, then we won't be here even 2 years from now. So really, we're going to keep going on this path and keep working as hard as we can over here to get our technology and platform and product scaled and to address all the demand that we have.
Wow. No, that's great. So while we're here, you have an upcoming event coming up in Denver. Let's talk about it a bit. And the second thing for anyone who's here, our Digital Underground, the DU, we are going to co-host a meetup over in Denver. Right now, I've made the commitment that I will be going. I'm trying to see if either Lawrence or Dr. Boyce may also be able to make it out there. But while we're talking, Caleb, you want to talk about, and actually there's another person on our end, a fellow by the name of Prince EA. He's an influencer more on the kind of mindfulness side, but he happens to be into cryptocurrency. And, I'm going to try to see if maybe Prince can make it out there too, because we all like to hang out and we all want to go to Denver. Yeah. Why don't you tell us about this Day for Crypto, what this is about, what your vision is, when it is, so people can, know about this and learn more.
Yeah, so Denver Day for Crypto is an event that Salt is co-hosting with our partners Beacon International. They throw on a lot of crypto events around the world. And it's an all-day event. We have breakfast, coffee throughout the day, lunch taken care of. And then a networking event afterwards with drinks all included, and then an after party. And it's the whole purpose of Denver Day for Crypto is to give anybody that is looking for that entry point into crypto, or anybody who's looking to deepen their understanding of cryptocurrency. It gives them an opportunity to really do a deep dive into really like the basics, step by step, of how to get involved in crypto and how to do it safely, how to do it securely. And then we also, that's kind of like the morning session is what blockchain means in a grand scheme. And we have how to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. And we have a panel with both KeepKey and Edge Secure, which is formerly Airbit's, like awesome mobile wallet provider. So they'll be talking about how to use different types of wallets to store your Bitcoin after you bought or sold. And then we also have some talks from some personal security experts for how to keep yourself safe from hackers. And then we have some awesome panels too. We have one panel which is going to just be just a powerhouse panel. I'm really excited about this one. Is going to be Eric Voorhees, the CEO and founder of Shapeshift. He's one of the oldest guys that's been in the space the longest. You probably have heard of his name. Peter Vicenis, one of the original OG Bitcoin guys. Like, he talks about remembering when Bitcoin went from like 50 cents to $8 and then back to 50 cents. You know, awesome. And it's like, hey, so he's like old Bitcoin Foundation guy. And then Sean Owen, our CEO, is going to be on that panel, and then Charlie Shrem as well. So two of the guys in that panel were in Netflix Banking on Bitcoin. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity to see a conversation between these luminaries talking about what this space is, what it needs, where it's going, and where they think it should go. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be doing a little bit of a more deeper dive into some of the niches of cryptocurrency. In particular, I know what on everyone's mind is the ICO world. So we're going to be hearing from some people about how to analyze ICOs, how to invest in those, and how to judge whether an ICO is worthwhile or not. But one thing to be clear is we have been adamant as organizing this that we're not going to bring people who are relatively new to the space and then put them in front of a bunch of ICOs to pitch their token. You know, there's no ICOs pitching. That's not going to be the content at all. It's all about education and how to really be confident to confidently join this community where you are in control of your own finances. And then we also have some tax experts talking about how to treat your own taxes. And then Peter Vicenis, who's on that earlier panel, is going to be on the headline, the keynote speaker. We're really excited to hear what he has to talk about. Just some great speakers and awesome opportunity. We have a bunch of sponsors from the industry who are going to have some booths set up, and it's a great opportunity to meet some of these booths. We're going to have some Bitcoin ATMs there, so if you want to learn how to use those, there'll be people walking you through those. Some hardware wallets for sale. Just really great opportunity for people to meet the luminaries and companies in this industry and to become really just comfortable with it. We think at the end of the day, you could have no idea what blockchain is, and by the end of it, you could be really comfortable in the space, really confident. And I think we're giving you guys a promo code, and all the viewers here, Jarvis Project. I think that Charles is putting it in the link. I think we're doing $50 off, Charles, is that right?
Yeah, I think $50 off.
Yeah, so normally it's a $250 ticket. We're giving you $50 off if you use the promo code on Jarvis Project. And really, we just want people there. This is Salt's real first event. And we're really excited to establish ourselves not only as thought leaders, but really we want to drive community adoption. And we're excited about the project. We'd love to see you there. If you can make it out to Denver, or if you're in Denver, in the greater Denver area, you should definitely come to it. It's a great price and a great lineup.
No, that's great. And I'm just going to also add, Caleb's been incredibly generous, and he's also issued us a small amount of, call it free or scholarship tickets. So internally, for everyone who's on, we actually have, I know a lot of people here know Len Mosley. He's very involved in all, he's a really intelligent, he's one of the smartest tech guys I know. This guy's like, I think, director of R&D, or he's a big dog over at Cablevision, basically, one of those largest MSOs in the country. So his wife, Kim, is actually organizing our initiatives on our end. And what that means, we'll be posting more details on this shortly. This is coming up, I think, first week of March. Is it March 10th or March 2nd? It's coming up in a couple weeks. But for DU members, we have a select amount of free scholarship tickets. So instead of paying, $250 to get this invaluable in-person education and networking and things like that, you'll be able to get in free because you are a member of the DU. So we don't have enough for everybody. We have a small amount for members of the DU, and stay posted to get more information on that. Now, for everyone else, we do have a discount code, which is exciting. And if you just want to come for networking, I think, Caleb, you're going to extend an invitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, is it Saturday night or something like that?
Yeah. So the day for crypto takes place Saturday, March 10th. So very soon, it's coming up. It's going to start really early in the morning. Like I think registration is going to be around 7:30. We want everyone to get in, get some coffee, get a little breakfast in them, get ready to learn, and then everything will kick off shortly thereafter. We'll have this pretty packed lineup of speakers. It's going to be very fast moving. Shorter time slots. We don't want anybody up there like kind of getting tired of looking at the same person. It's going to move really fast. We've got lunch, and then we have the afternoon session, some coffee breaks in between. And then afterwards, we have a networking event at the hotel where the event is. I'm spacing on the name right now where it's at, but it's all in the information there in Denver D4C. We're going to have a cocktail networking event right there. We'd love to meet you. And then afterwards, Salt and our partners, who we're announcing soon, we're really excited about to announce. We're going to be actually announcing some pretty big news at the after party, which is going to be at STK in Denver as well.
Wow. So yeah, unfortunately, Caleb can't open the doors to just anybody on an unlimited basis because, he's put a great program together. He's got costs. He's providing, breakfast and lunch and all that. But he's generous enough for anyone who wants to come, free through our program. And you don't even have to be a DU member. You can just be in the Black Crypto group or just know who we are. We're going to be hosting a meetup at the networking event. So, if you want to come for the training and you want to learn about it, that's great. You're going to get a massive discount, get in for $200. And by the end of the day, you'll know everything it seems you need to know to get started in crypto. So that's exciting. If you just want to come network, I'm going to make it there. I'm trying to get Dr. Boyce and Lawrence to see if one of them can also come too. So we will be hosting call it DU meetup or general crypto investing meetup for the community. So, this is going to be awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited listening to this. I'm excited to get out to Denver. I'm excited to meet you and meet the rest of your team. And
Denver is a really cool city. I think you're going to love it. I don't know if you've been before, but it's an awesome city. It's really friendly people. If you've never been to Denver, it's definitely worth a trip at any time. People think that we're always up to our eyeballs in snow, but honestly, I think this is like the second or third time it's snowed all winter. But I think, generally it's just great weather, tons of sunshine, and really, really, really friendly, active, open, engaging people. Great stuff to do around the city as well. Tons of art and sports and culture.
No, that's great. Wow. So we've been on for a little over an hour, so it's probably time to wrap up. But just to wrap up, I always love to get people's predictions. My crystal ball doesn't work well, so I love seeing how other people's crystal balls work. So my $1 million question for you is, will John McAfee have to his junk?
His junk. What was the time frame on his bet, or his self-bet, I guess?
Yeah, let me just give the background, So people out there, everyone's heard of John McAfee, I'm sure, in some manner. He's the founder of one of the most popular antivirus softwares out there. And he's also a bit of a controversial figure, and some people might say he's a little, he's probably got a screw or two loose. But he made a statement recently, and I think it was the last couple months, that Bitcoin will hit $1 million of Bitcoin by 2020. And if Bitcoin does not hit $1 million of Bitcoin, he will publicly eat his you-know-what on TV. That's kind of how I heard it. Now, I could be wrong, not sure, but essentially the prediction is, will Bitcoin hit 2020 will one Bitcoin be worth $1 million by 2020? I've got my opinions. I'll keep that to myself. Would love to get your take on it. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think McAfee is just a really interesting, very controversial character. We actually met him in Dallas just recently over the weekend, and there was a picture of him standing at our booth with Sean, our CEO, and we put it up. Hey, this is one of the people who came by our booth, and then you saw this reaction, and it's almost like he's almost like the Howard Stern of crypto. He says some really incendiary things. He gets accused of a lot of things, but I think honestly, anybody that drives a conversation in crypto and keeps people on their toes, I think it's I neither endorse nor deny anything he's saying. I'm not going to take an opinion on any of his particular views necessarily, other than what we're talking about right now. But I think it's really interesting how he's become such a character in the crypto space. Very interesting, dude. Either way, I mean, you gotta give somebody credit for being kind of a early pioneer in antivirus and recognize the need for that. Either way, he's quite bombastic and iconoclastic. But yeah, so I think originally his bet was 500,000 by 2020, right? Was it by the end of 2020?
I don't know if it was by the end or the beginning. My suspicion is, given where the price is, if it wasn't explicitly stated, he's going to say, December 31st at 12.
At midnight. So I think his original bet is more possible. I think it's a lot. That's a lot of it's a lot of money for every Bitcoin. If you imagine, let's see, 21 million Bitcoins in the world total. By then there'll probably be, I think, in the order of 18 to 19 million out in the market. So that would be, I don't even know what the math on that is. What is 6 zeros on top of 21 million?
That'd be 21. Well, that'd go billion to trillion. So it'd
go billion to. Would it go? No, it would go. Yeah, million to billions to trillion. So we're talking like that'd be a market cap of $21 trillion for just Bitcoin by the year 2020. I think that might be. We might see some junk eating. I think I'm super optimistic. I think that. I mean, when people always ask me like, what is Bitcoin going to be worth, in 5 years? And my answer is always that I think it's going to be less than the big proponents of Bitcoin think it is, but I think it's going to be a lot more than the critics of Bitcoin think it's going to be. So I think it's going. I think where the people there's always been people say, no, Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin's going to be zero a year from now. People are going to realize that it was just a joke, or that everyone's gonna get fleeced, and never happens, right? It just keeps on churning along. And there's always been people who are like, big Bitcoin fanboys, and they're like, Bitcoin's going to be $1 million in 2 years, and it's like, I think there's a tension, right? I think you gotta have attention. If you're looking I think one of the greatest things to look at is what would a $21 million market cap of Bitcoin, or $21 trillion market cap of Bitcoin alone look like. Now, I do think that in the near-term future, in our lifetime, certainly, and within this decade, a vast majority of anything that is of value is going to be recorded on blockchains, right? Like whether it's your reputation, your identity, your time, the title to your house, So if you're looking at the total market cap of all cryptocurrencies, all blockchain assets, I think we could be pushing something in that range by 2020, maybe a little bit longer. But I think just Bitcoin alone being $1 million, I don't know. I wouldn't put my own junk on the block for that. But it's a free country, or it's a free world. You can most places, I guess, it's a free world, but anybody can make that bet. And let's see. I've thought about if he loses, he either has a choice of welching, which he doesn't really like. I met him. He doesn't really strike me as a welcher. He seems like pretty committed to his concepts. So I wonder how he would pull it off. Would it be like a slight skin graft off of it that he could see?
Oh man, TMI, man. That's way too much.
I'm just curious. I mean, I think there's wiggle room on that. There's definitely some contract negotiation room there, but I don't know. It could be. I don't know. I think he's gonna lose that bet, but I don't think it'll be too many years before he wins that bet. I don't think he was that far off.
That's interesting, and I'll give my opinion. I would peg personally Bitcoin against some percentage of the value or the market cap of gold. And if you look at gold today, I believe, and I don't have the exact number, but I think it's about I think it's like $7 trillion.
Something like that.
Right. So what I would think, if I were to make a bet like that, and I still probably would be, I still think for me, this is maybe like a 20% probability or a 10% probability. I have a reasonable belief that I am willing to make a bet that there is a reasonable possibility that 10 to 15% of the value that's stored in gold will transfer over to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a higher percentage personally. One, here's my pushback, not pushback, but here's my thoughts on that, using other markets as metrics. And this is really important for me to differentiate what I'm saying here as purely postulation. This is not investment advice. Because I've been such a regulated industry, I have to be really meticulous about this. You should not make any investments based off of my opinion and postulations about the future of blockchain. But I think that what we're going to be seeing in Bitcoin is, with SegWit and Lightning coming about, I think it's going to be enabling the second layer protocol, right? Where we're going to have more and more assets attached to the blockchain, and there's going to be a two-way valuation or value tie between that. And I think if you look at like the cash equities and derivatives swap like market, right? That's like a 1.4 quadrillion size market.
Yeah. Right?
It's huge. It is massive. And I think what we're already seeing is a lot of these financial instruments start to be put on blockchains, right? And I don't think Bitcoin's there to start attaching derivatives or cash equity swaps and stuff like that, like these weird esoteric kind of weird financial instruments. It's not ready to quite yet just to attach right there onto the Bitcoin blockchain, but I think it's coming, right? And I think that I just don't know how fast it's coming, but I think that the market potential of something like Bitcoin is much greater than the potential of just something like gold. And even if it was just replacing gold, I think the market cap would be greater than the market cap of gold because of the utility of it. It has some utility that gold will never have, right? It has the immutability, it has the rarity, the fungibility, but it also has this transferability that gold doesn't have. You can't send gold over the internet to anyone in the world, and it's very cheap to store Bitcoin compared to gold. So I think that the value of gold is a metric of the utility of gold, of what it's good for, right? And it has these qualities that make it very, very good for reserve store value, but it's not very good for a lot of other things like transactions. And that's something that I think Bitcoin as a metric compared to gold does have advantages over gold. So I think that it's a good starting point, but it's not the ending point, I don't think.
No, that's great. Wow. Alrighty. Well, for everyone who listened in, thank you again. Let's kind of give like a few extra likes and hearts to Caleb from Salt. So thanks for having you on. Hopefully,
thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And to all your community, I really appreciate you guys' time, attention, comments, spreading the word of Salt for us and helping us out with that. We'd love to see you in Denver for DFC, March 10th.
Alrighty, thanks a lot. And I know we're going to be catching up after this. So I got to run right now, but let's be in touch. Alrighty.
Sounds good, Charles. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Thanks a lot.